Welcome to the world of Culture Pop with Steve Mason and Sue Kalinsky. Culture, comedy, movies, TV, tech, authors, trends, pop. This is the Culture Pop Podcast.
Hi, welcome everybody to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, and I am broadcasting again from my kitchen table in my kitchen. It is April the 6th, Monday, April the 6th right now. And we're all wrapped up in Tiger King. You guys, I'm sure you've seen Tiger King. If you saw exactly who I've got on the show today, I'm sure that's why you're listening. It's, for whatever reason, just exploded. And the only thing that I can compare it to, recently at least, is Game of Thrones. In the same way we watched every episode of Game of Thrones during that last season, it feels like Tiger King is the great big communal experience that we all need right now. Now, yes, the people are, how do I say, they're a bit trashy. I don't want to say too much because the guy's coming on the show. It's kind of like redneck Real Housewives of tiger zoos. I mean, I don't know exactly the way you would describe it, but essentially that's what it is, right? It's a soap opera involving tigers. And I've gotten some tweets because we had James Garrettson on and earlier in a previous podcast. And one of the things people are upset about is the way the tigers, the way the big cats were treated. And there's no question about that, especially by the time you get to that last episode and they talk about Joe having killed a few of his tigers. And they talk about Joe or Doc Antle, who's super creepy, maybe putting tiger cubs to sleep. All that stuff gets really, really awful and really disgusting. But this soap opera featuring these really trashy characters has captivated everybody when we need something to captivate us. So that's why I did a few podcasts about it, and this one included. I want to tell you about my friend Jacob Imrani. So Jacob has been one of the supporters of the Culture Pop Podcast from the very beginning. And you know what people want right now more than anything? They want certainty. People want certainty. And it may be, for example, that you've got an accident that happened before all this went down. And that accident, maybe the attorney hasn't followed up for you and has really dropped the ball. And you've got injuries to deal with and all that kind of stuff. You know, you're hearing from the insurance company, they're bugging you. Right now, you want certainty. That's why you want to turn over your case or at least get a free consultation from Jacob Imrani. 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB. 844-24-JACOB. Or remember the catchy jingle, accident or injury, call Jacob. Imrani, call Jacob. All right, so if you watch Tiger King, you know that Joe Exotic's, I guess it would be his second husband. His first husband died. His second husband was John Finley. His third husband tragically died. That was Travis. So this is his second husband. And you probably remember him as having the weird teeth. It looked like he had two teeth during the entire show. He's gotten new teeth. We talk about that. And joining us right now is John Finley from Tiger King. All right, John, thanks a lot for joining me. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good.
So, you know what's interesting? We've all watched Tiger King at this point, but we know very little about where you grew up and how you grew up. Give us sort of your background before you got to Joe Exotic.
I'm a Texas boy. I mean, it's actually already out there, but, you know, I mainly grew up in Oklahoma, and that's pretty much it. I'm
Okay.
still in Oklahoma right now.
All right. So let's go back to the beginning of your time with Joe. How did you meet Joe Exotic in the first place?
I met him when I filled out an application at the park.
And what made you want to go work at the park?
I loved exotics, or I loved animals, so I figured it was a good job to have.
So why animals? Why was that your thing? What drew you to it?
Well, one of the guys I grew up watching was Steve Irwin, and I kind of shared his love for animals, so he kind of inspired me to want to take care of animals.
So what was Joe Exotic like when you first met him?
He was a normal guy. He was outgoing and fun.
And then did you guys there's supposedly some sort of relationship. Did you have a relationship, a marriage to Joe Exotic?
No, we were never legally married, but we did have a relationship for 11 years.
And did you just sort of went along with the ceremony? Why did you go along with the ceremony and the whole idea of marriage?
It was his idea to try and get a reality show.
Oh, that was the whole point in the first place.
Yes.
So when do you think Joe when did he jump the shark? When did he get crazy?
When he started running for governor and running for president.
And do you think Joe thought that he could be elected governor, or was it all just a stunt to him in his head?
In his mind, he really thought he could win it.
And did people around him, did you say, hey, Joe, this is just not a real thing?
I wasn't really a part of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I cut his bumper stickers and stuff like that, but that was pretty much it.
So I want to talk about Carol Baskin. Do you think, because it's been suggested, and like I'm on ESPN all week long, and we've done polls and taken calls, and generally speaking, everybody thinks that Carol Baskin killed her husband and fed him to the tigers. Do you think so?
No, I mean, I really don't have an opinion on it because that's not something that affects me, and I try to live in a positive life.
So what was Joe's fixation on Carol Baskin? What was that about?
He kind of just went with the lawsuit and stuff like that. It started all because of a news article that she had done in the local newspaper, and then that's when his fixation started, and it just grew from there.
Now, if I remember right, you loved the crocodiles. And, of course, the crocodile house burned down, which was really sad. Do you think Joe set that fire?
He wasn't even in town, supposedly, when that happened. But at that time, I was not working at the park.
Oh, so you weren't at the park when the crocodile house burned down?
No.
What made you ultimately leave the zoo?
The first time or the last time?
Let's start with the first time.
The first time, it was just, I had enough, and it was getting to be too much for me.
Right.
And then the second time, it was just, I was done with that whole thing.
After you were done with the whole thing, did you have any contact with Joe?
I had some, not much, but I didn't know exactly what was going on with whatever investigation was going on.
So you were never part of the investigation with the feds and the hit and all that kind of stuff?
I didn't really know what was going on until he got picked up.
So from everything you know, do you think Joe did put a hit out on Carol Baskin?
That I don't know. I wasn't really around him the whole time, So I can't really say whether he did or not.
Do you think Joe should ever be let out of prison?
Do I think he should be let out? That's really not for me to say. I mean, he was judged by a jury of his peers, so they said that he was guilty, and that's the end of it.
So I saw a picture of you, and you've got new teeth. They look great. I got new teeth a long time ago. It's a real pain in the ass. How about for you?
It's still kind of a pain in the butt, but, I'm taking it day by day, best I can. And that's all you can ask for, is to take it day by day, because you're trying to learn something new, and it's not something that's just a day or two and you get used to it.
So what's your life like now?
My life is freaking great.
Yeah, what's great about it?
My fiance, I mean, she's there with me every step of the way. She's kind of been a life coach and all kinds of other stuff, and she's the rock that I needed.
So what's it like to be famous?
Crazy. I mean, I'm busy with interviews and radio interviews and cameos, and soon to start inspirational speaking, and yeah, it's just been one crazy ride. But
that's awesome, man.
Fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, John, congratulations, I think, for surviving this whole thing. It was a crazy story. The whole country has now watched this show, and I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes and talking it over.
Not a problem. Thank you, and thank you to my fans in California, and thank you for all the support.
You bet. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Accident or injury, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mace. If you or a loved one is injured in any kind of accident, please don't wait. Call Jacob immediately for a free consultation. That's right, free. When an accident happens, it can turn your world upside down, so put the best on your side. Jacob doesn't even get paid unless you win. First name, first thought, first call, Jacob, Jacob, Jacob. After an accident, 24 hours a day, call 844-24-JACOB or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
All right, there you have it. John Finley interview was a little bit like pulling teeth, but appreciate him doing that. And yeah, the motivational speaker thing, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But sounds like he's got his life on track. He's got a fiance, and he's staying in the positive, is what he said. And he's got brand new teeth. They look great. He looks like Seinfeld. Really, he does. I'll tweet out a picture of the guy. So, yeah, Tiger King has been just an amazing phenomenon. Although that's probably the last Tiger King guest on the Culture Pop podcast. We had James Garretson and John Finley, and that's probably good. Shy of getting Joe Exotic on live from prison, which would be huge. But I don't know if my booker can pull that off. So we've been cranking out a lot of these Culture Pop podcasts. Appreciate you being out there. Appreciate you listening. I'm looking at the numbers, and more people are listening. We've got time right now. We've all got downtime. Need a little extra entertainment, a little extra interesting material to come up with. So I'm enjoying it, and hope you are too. Don't forget, you can subscribe, rate, and review. And a couple of the guests coming up on the show include Howard Koch Jr., who is now known as Hawk Koch. Howard Koch Jr. was an assistant director on Chinatown, which is my all-time favorite movie, written by Robert Towne, produced by Robert Evans, directed by Roman Polanski. And Howard, or Hawk now, was the assistant director on that. So I'm fascinated to hear what it was like on that set. Plus, he's had a great career in his own right. His dad is a show business legend, Howard Koch Sr., Howard W. Koch Sr. And Hawk has produced a whole bunch of movies now. He's produced movies like Fracture and Gorky Park and Wayne's World and Primal Fear. on and on. Great movies that he has produced. So he will be on the show. Plus, Barry Sonnenfeld is going to join me coming up on the Culture Pop podcast. He was a longtime director of photography for the Coen brothers. He worked on movies like Blood Simple and Raising Arizona, some of the Coen brothers' early movies, and he has since gone on to direct Men in Black 1, 2, and 3, The Addams Family, Get Shorty, all kinds of great movies. So Barry Sonnenfeld is going to join me coming up on a Culture Pop podcast too. That is it for now. Thank you very much for listening and for being out there, and I'll see you next time.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you next week for an all-new episode of Culture Pop.